Hello, friends and neighbors. Okay, I always wanted to say that. But anyway, it's actually written here. Hello, friends and readers. Today is Wednesday, March the 16th, 2022. Thank you for joining me. I love chocolate, milk chocolate. I love those little Dove chocolates with the little saying, sort of like fortune cookies. Have you had any of those? I just had one that said, live your life every day with no regrets. It'll be worth it. When I was 17 years old, I woke up from a sound sleep with this urgent need to pee. When I got to the bathroom, the pressure to relieve myself was replaced by my staring at my reflection in the mirror. That was probably the last time I looked in the mirror until I was in my early 30s, but that's another story. What I want to say is that I had this profound experience when I looked in the mirror, which I've never forgotten and that I took to heart. I promised that 17-year-old self that was reflected in the mirror that I would have no regrets. Nikita Gill, who I mentioned recently, wrote Lessons I Learned Growing Up. She wrote, "You see, I found a note today from my 7-year-old self. All it said was, when I grow up, I want to be a good human. And all I can think was, I really hope I haven't let her down." I likened that promise to myself to the note written by a 7-year-old Nikita Gill. I hope I didn't let that 17-year-old down. Nietzsche said, "Those who were seen dancing were thought to be insane by those who could not hear the music." And I have a hunch that sometimes others looked at me warily as I sought to keep my promise to myself. This promise was also a secret that I did not share with very many people. Because to keep that promise, I've had to pay attention to what I wanted rather than to be swayed by my peers, my parents, partners, the world at large. Oh, sure, that's not to say I was never influenced by people, places, and things. It's just that I learned to listen to myself because I didn't want to have any regrets. I shudder to think of myself as an octogenarian with a retrospective of yearnings and shoulda, couldas, and why didn't I? I don't think any of us want to live that way. And of course, I've had to live with the consequences of making choices so I wouldn't have regrets. Make sense? It's not so clear sometimes. It wasn't always just yes or no decisions. On reflection, I have made decisions in some moments and in some circumstances where I may not have thought of all of the consequences. I did not examine all the what ifs. I guess I'm talking about the M word, mistakes. I have made mistakes. And I did the best I could with the information I had, considering everyone involved. I don't know if some Walkervillians have made choices because they didn't want to have any regrets later in life, but they did make choices based on the information they currently had at their disposal. Take Jerry Miyoshi, for instance. She made decisions about her daughter that included two families. Her decisions led to an estrangement from the people most important to her, and she lived with the consequences. Her daughter Paz made a decision to leave the community and her family when she didn't get what she thought she wanted. And for her own reasons, so did Fiona Montrose. They were both absent from Walkerville for years, only returning home when each of them had grown a little more mature. Choices were made as well by many of those who hadn't grown up in Walkerville but came as adults. Torkel McLeod had envisioned the law practice he wanted and jumped at Abednego's offer. Desmond Albuquerque, on the other hand, tore up a map of California, placing random names of towns in a large bowl, and extracted one. The town was Walkerville. Sue Reynolds deliberately made the decision to tell the truth about herself, about her life, while Lorraine Collins had faced the consequences of her life long before we ever met her. And almost 5 decades into making the decision to never have any regrets, I am mostly grateful I made the choices I did. I also asked for forgiveness rather than permission. I wonder if this is a part of living with no regrets. Victoria Holt, a great romance writer, said, "Never regret. If it's good, it's wonderful. If it's bad, it's experience. Win-win." Along the way, I provoked the ire of my mother many times with my decisions. She had great dreams for me, her dreams, not mine. She was arranging a marriage between me and the young vice president of the Bank of Tokyo and Nihon Machi, which translates into Japantown. When I got wind of that, I left my parents' home and moved to Berkeley. My mother refused to talk to me for years, saying I had shamed her. This promise to my 17-year-old those many years ago has given me many internal gifts. And some of these include self-responsibility, resilience, an inner compass, a belief in myself. Most importantly, as a woman of a certain age and a woman of color, this promise to live with no regrets has taught me that I am not a victim. In living with no regrets, I have made choices, and when I can make choices, I'm not a victim. There is no one to blame if the choices I made didn't turn out right, or if there was a mistake. As I mentioned before, I have made those. And you'll notice that while I talked about having no regrets, other than leaving home because of the arranged marriage my mother wanted for me, I have not mentioned any other areas where I made choices with no regrets. The famous, wonderful Swedish actress Ingrid Bergman said, "I have no regrets. I wouldn't have lived my life the way I did if I was going to worry about what people were going to say." Again, I've made a choice to not give more examples. I know you're all capable of imagining what other choices I may have made in my life because you've probably made them too. And I'm going to end with this anonymous quote. "Sometimes all you need is one person that shows you it's okay to let your guard down, to be yourself, and to love with no regrets." That's my story of holding true to a commitment that I made to live my life with no regrets. How about you? Are you living a life without regrets, or do you see your journey here in a different way? I'd love to hear your thoughts. You can send a message through Facebook, Instagram, or email. All the particulars are in the description just below. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. And as always, I remind you that YouTube counts everything. It really helps us a lot if you give this video a thumbs up and click that red subscribe button. And I hope you'll share my links with anyone you think would like to join our chats. Now you know new readers are always welcome. A personal recommendation from a friend is the best introduction to a writer. So please do share my stories. The address of my Amazon page is in the description. All of the Walkerville books are available to purchase in both Kindle and print editions. Of course, you'll find the direct link for next Wednesday's live chat there as well. Hope to see you then. And again, thank you so much for joining me this week.